Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. So the market is pretty flat today. We did see some stocks fall, some stocks rise in the pre-market. I know we had a couple decent earnings this morning, Tom, but nothing too crazy just yet. I would say the show really starts today in after hours with Netflix reporting, but we did see Lockheed Martin fall off a little bit and a couple other stocks, but overall it's not looking too bad.
Yeah, and Johnson & Johnson actually did pretty well. They didn't do well at the beginning, obviously falling off in pre-market quite a bit, but they're roaring right back up, and they're actually up to that high of yesterday, right around 180. So Johnson & Johnson's not looking bad, but you're definitely right here. We had Halliburton report, and they fell down. Lockheed Martin reported, and they also dipped, and it was interesting to see Lockheed fall off, Mike, and apparently they reported that their profit fell 5.7%, but the big thing I saw, Mike, was obviously the supply chain issues that have been caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, apparently, but as we know, there's been issues from China and all types of different situations that have been causing these types of supply chain problems, but yeah, it looks like Lockheed's getting hit by that, but honestly, it's kind of right back up here at market open, so it's not looking too bad, actually.
Yeah, it's really not. So I feel like it's kind of like the same thing that happened yesterday in the sense that, let's say we look at companies like Apple, right? Apple on their chart from yesterday, they gapped down in the morning, but 30 minutes to an hour after open, they were actually green. And then they ended up just consolidating basically all day. So as of right now, that's what it kind of seems like what's happening with a lot of stocks. But of course, that can change.
Yeah, it definitely can. And, like so far today, I'm pretty worried about these growth stocks, Mike, because yesterday at open, a lot of these stocks dipped down in a major way, like DraftKings, Zoom, and stocks like that started really falling off. So I'm going to keep my eyes on these ones because I'd hate to see them go down for a second consecutive day here. Hopefully we see some nice consolidation. Zoom was kind of bouncing right around that 104 support yesterday. Actually looks pretty solid there, and DraftKings is holding right around its low of day yesterday too, so maybe these stocks will hold their ground and start going back up. But so far today, Mike, I do have some stocks up in the green, and some of these airlines are pretty surprising today, like American coming right back up. And I know that there was some news of mask mandates getting taken away that are definitely in the headlines today.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Tom, and you beat me to it. So I'm looking at Delta, that one's popping the most in my opinion, but that news with the mask mandates is big. I know people have been waiting for this mandate to end, and maybe I doubt it, but maybe it'll get more people traveling. I don't know.
Yeah, and they reported an increase in traveling anyways, so maybe we'll just see an overall increase now with the mandates going away and stuff. And I'll be honest, Mike, people are probably traveling anyways right now, even with the mandates in place. So with them taking it away, it would do nothing but help, I would think. So that's good news there. And the airlines themselves reported great numbers on their earnings too. And we have more coming out later in the week, but it was pretty big to see Delta report great numbers last week, and the whole airline sector started booming after this. Even Boeing has been flying up, Mike, and even Boeing's doing well today too.
All right, there we go. Yeah, Boeing's not looking too bad. It's popping up there in a good way. Volume's decent. So it looks like there's a lot of money flowing into these airline plays. And I guess you could say, I don't know. I guess you can. I don't really want to classify Boeing as an airline, but you know what I mean. Either way, there's a lot of money flowing into that industry.
Yeah, they're kind of in that industry. So I definitely see what you're saying there. But even if we look at some of those hotel stocks, I'm curious to see how they're doing, kind of like Hyatt and MGM and stocks like that. And even they're starting to come back up today. So I guess these reopening plays are definitely doing well. But Mike, another one that's actually been climbing up my watch list here so far this morning is Plug Power. Plug is up 5%, and they had a huge move today in pre-market. Not sure if there was any company-specific news on this. I am looking in the Thinkorswim news tab right now. It looks like Plug Power Inc.'s deal to fuel Walmart's fleet of material handling lift trucks. So that's pretty big if they can help do something with Walmart, obviously. You can see this is on the Thinkorswim news today. But, man, anytime a company makes a deal with Walmart, it's definitely good. And Plug's up 5%. And they're up 5% considering, and they've even dropped it open. If they would have opened up around 28, it would be even better.
True. All right, so another one that's kind of catching my eye is Palantir. Check out this movement intraday.
Wow, yeah, they're actually breaking above there was a pretty big resistance intraday yesterday with Palantir, like right around $12.20. You could say like $12.25, and it's starting to retest that resistance to slightly break it. So it's looking pretty decent today. You're right, and I feel like a lot of these growth plays, like whether it's Palantir or whether it's weird stocks like Rocket Lab or whether it's Plug, I feel like a lot of them are turning back up this morning, which is good to see.
Awesome. And then even Square's not doing too bad either. That one is popping up. It's still around 122, but I think Square's looking pretty good, so that's good. DraftKings isn't looking too bad. That one's up around 1% or so. What else? Oops, I just lost it. Oh no, now it just pulled back a little bit, but either way, it's not looking too bad. On the red side of things, it looks like Roblox is continuing to fall off the board.
Ooh, they are. They're down another 3% today. Definitely not good. But I will say, Mike, ever since market open, it hasn't looked the worst. I will say, it fell off a little bit, but it did consolidate and come back a little here over the past maybe 5 minutes or so. So I'm happy to see that at least. But I'm with you. The movement's bad today. They're down 3%, and they're definitely off that closing price of yesterday, up there around $41. So maybe we'll get back up there today, but man, I'm not going to be too hopeful for Roblox. Like you said, they just keep going down day by day. And I'm also noticing on my watch list that Rivian is also down again. And I don't know what's up with some of these growth plays, Mike, but it seems like every day, like Roblox, Lucid, and Rivian have been falling like 3%.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Rivian's been brutal. I feel that one has been falling a lot more than any of these other, not even just growth stocks, but tech stocks. And it's just been really bad. And I guess it goes to show you that when times get tough, the most overhyped stocks and most overvalued stocks fall the quickest and the hardest.
Yeah, they do. Even Lucid here is falling down, and Lucid's had some big backing over the past couple of years. Even Rivian has some big backers in it, like Ford and GM, and I know Soros was buying into it, and I'm sure other institutions were too. So honestly, it's pretty crazy to see these down this much. But like you said, Mike, you can't be the third largest automaker and not even sell any vehicles. That just makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I feel like even though the market does stupid and crazy things, both the upside and the downside in the short term, I feel like for the most part, it almost always corrects itself. I feel like you can say that about many different stocks throughout history, and I just feel like those types of crazy events are what ultimately offer the amazing opportunity. For example, if we don't have stocks that are way oversold that are actually good companies that are growing, that's what gives us great buying opportunities. While at the same time, when we have companies like Rivian that are just ridiculously valued, that gives us great short opportunities. And if the market was perfectly efficient, we would never have any of those any of those great opportunities.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy to see how low it's getting. And you're right, it's going to make some good opportunities for longer term trades as long as you're comfortable with the companies. I know not everybody's going to love Rivian. Some people might like Palantir better down here, or they might like Zoom better, of course, or other stocks like that. But you're right. There's definitely big opportunities down here right now. And as I look at some of these stocks, Mike, they're getting so low and they're at such good discounts that it's so tempting to buy a lot of these. And I've already gotten into quite a few of them. So hopefully they stay stagnant to keep going down. I know a lot of people hate whenever people want stocks to fall, but it creates such good long-term opportunities, and it just allows you to continue to buy up more shares at lower prices, and then you can sell more covered calls and stuff like that. And who knows, like I started to say there, you could even sell cash secured puts to open the position. So there's a lot of stuff you can do, but you're right. These stocks are at great levels. And what's even catching my eye here this morning, Mike, is good old AMC. It's been a while since we talked about them, but they're actually starting to stay below $20 in a pretty big way. And man, they're all the way down around 17 again.
Dang, we haven't checked out AMC for a couple days, and like you said, they've been really struggling lately. They had that really nice pop a couple weeks ago, but that got rejected in a really hard way.
Yeah, it did. Like they ran all the way up to almost $35 that day, and then they came right back down. And man, for a while it seemed like AMC and GameStop were going to have some renewed momentum, but like you said, they gave that all right back, and now AMC's almost back down to that $15 support again. So we're going to have to be careful with these stocks, but yeah, it's continuing to fall on my watch list, and they've been in the red almost every single day for the past few weeks. So bad to see there. Same thing with AI, Mike. AI is another one. It just continues to stay lower. And man, it's like all these growth plays are just continuing to sell off today, which I know we've been waiting for an uptrend for a long time, but man, oh man, it just every day they just keep going lower and lower. And LI's down, Neo's down, Baba's even in the red again. Like, man, like these poor China plays too. It's like the market's just not stopping with the selling pressure here.
Yeah, it's true. But what's interesting, Tom, is like it's not a full-on crash, as we have some stocks doing pretty well. Like the value stocks have been outperforming almost everything lately.
Yeah, they have. Like, we look at Walmart up there around highs, and they just recently broke out above a major resistance around like 150 to 152. So that was big to see them doing that. I know Costco has been a huge one, Mike. Like they've just been making new highs like day by day, it seems like. And man, you're right. These these value plays are doing great. Like Target is doing good again, Mike. It's actually breaking out above that high of yesterday. And man, Target seems like it goes up every single day lately. Like it's pretty consistent here. But yeah, I mean, these stocks are doing very well. And you're right. Like while the growth is going down, we're seeing, I don't know how to classify these, Mike. Like obviously they're value stocks, but at the same time, I feel like they're also like more established, as in like there's more big money in these plays. So I just feel like they're just more established in general. Even the ones that aren't value plays, like if we go look at like Boeing, for example, of course they're volatile and they go all over the place, but even I feel like even Boeing is like more established than something like Rivian, for example.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. It's just been around longer, and I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's not a value stock, and that's all I was trying to say is I'm not trying to say Boeing's a value stock, but they're just one of those stocks that have been around longer, and I feel like they just have a little bit more confidence in them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Jerry said, fine, Tom, I'll get the Palantir puts. Uh-oh, let's see. Palantir, it's not looking too bad. I mean, Tom, what are you thinking with Palantir?
Actually, today, I think it's holding up pretty well, actually. It's kind of holding this $12 support. And man, oh man, like I know I've been hitting on these stocks a lot and they've been going down a lot. But of course, today, I mean, Palantir is actually holding up pretty well. And for someone like me who loves to look at technicals on these stocks, Palantir is actually forming a pretty nice setup here. So Palantir has a pretty good neckline right here, right around $12 even. It's been a big support in the past, and we've consolidated a lot around $12, and we're consolidating on it right now. And recently, they dipped down to around $10 and came right back up. So, Mike, like this is looking like a bit of an inverse head and shoulders pattern to me, as long as this $12 neckline holds up. If we start blasting below $12 today, obviously then this technical pattern is not going to work out. But if we do see, maybe this $12 support hold up and Palantir keeps rising, who knows? Palantir might be a pretty good entry soon because it's been going down a lot. It's been forming some good supports and it's kind of consolidating right on $12. So actually, to me, I think Palantir looks like a pretty good play to the upside right now as long as it holds.
Yeah, so Jerry said he keeps saying growth is getting smacked. So, yes, that's true, but that doesn't mean that you want to short Palantir or other growth stocks. Because, Tom, let's say we went to Lockheed Martin on the daily chart. I think it's safe to say that everyone can be like, all right, Lockheed Martin keeps going up. It's been going from 340 up to 480 over the past couple months. Everyone knows it's going to keep going, or everyone knows it has been going up. But that doesn't mean to buy it at this point. You could say the same thing about anything. I mean, you could say the same thing about, let's say, Nikola is like a crazy example. Because over the past 3 or 4 weeks it's been getting smacked, it doesn't mean that you buy puts because it can be oversold. So just keep in mind that if one group of stocks or one stock specifically has been getting smacked, it doesn't mean that it will continue to be smacked in the future. There would be other variables that come into play.
Yeah, 100%. And Yeah, like, and just because they're going down now doesn't mean that it's gonna keep flying down for like the next few days or anything. As we can see, I mean, some of these stocks today are even starting to come back up. Like, even if we go look at something like Neo, for example, if we look at them, they flew down at market open, but now over the past like 5 minutes or so, they have some pretty big green candles coming back to the upside. And the market's always changing, and obviously these stocks are, especially around market open, they're extremely volatile. So keep that in mind. We've only been open for 15 minutes, so the movement might not be totally established yet either. But yeah, I mean, the growth plays, it seems like on the daily charts, they just keep going down day by day. But Mike, at some point, these are going to be great opportunities, and they should end up going back up soon. And what's pretty surprising today is we're seeing a few support bounces, kind of like what we said with Palantir off that $12 support, charge points bouncing off of $15. And some of these growth plays actually aren't looking too bad as far as their intraday setups go, but on the daily, they just keep looking brutal.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing. Like, let's say, Tom, let's say we're looking at a stock and it's down 30% over the past month, and we say, oh, it keeps getting smacked. That has no bias in either direction. For example, like, you can't say, oh, just because a stock is down 30%, that means it's automatically a good dip buy. At the same time, you can't say because it's down 30%, it can't fall any further. Like, what has happened over like the past 3 to 4 weeks has a pretty, it has not too much predictive power. Like, there's a lot of other factors that dictate what will happen what will happen in the future, rather than what happened over the past 30 days or so.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a pretty big thing to say, because especially with everything going on with Powell and rates and everything like that, the market seems like it's constantly changing. We get one CNBC report about rates going up more than expected, and the market goes crazy, So the outlooks are changing, it seems like, day by day. And man, I really hope that eventually the markets slow down and then these growth stocks start, maybe consolidating and coming back up. And I feel like we might be in the beginning stages of that, maybe, but we'll have to see. I really hope that Powell maybe speaks later this week. I know he's talking on Thursday, Mike, and who knows, maybe he'll make some good statements about the economy, and that, maybe that the Fed's tools might work, pretty well. I don't know how much the Feds are going to be able to help inflation at this point. As we know, it's getting to levels from 1982 and stuff like that. So they might be able to help it, maybe over the next couple of months, but it seems like short term it's just going to still go parabolic here.
Yep. All right. I'm doing another quick scan to see some of the top movers for today. There's definitely a lot of money flowing into these airline plays. The China stocks are getting hit pretty hard. I don't know if you saw that, but like Alibaba and Baidu are taking some pretty big hits.
Man, I did notice that, especially with Baba this morning. It's looking pretty brutal on the chart here. Kind of reminds me of some of like the growth plays, but in the end, it's another sector that just continues to get beaten down. And I'm pretty worried about these China plays, Mike. Like, what's causing this major selling pressure? Is it just straight up Baba's issues here, or do you believe maybe it's actually more of a maybe investor fear of China? Because I know they've been talking a lot about Taiwan lately, and I know even Taiwan has made statements about China over the past couple weeks, kind of saying that they're kind of saying like, hey, if China gets aggressive, it's just going to show everybody what they were and everything like this, and that they were really what they've really been going after and all this stuff. So I don't know, but it seems like the tensions are definitely there, and I'm really curious to see if they try to pull like a Russia and Ukraine. I really don't think they will, but we obviously still have to keep that on the radar just in case. And I'm wondering if that's like what's been causing this downtrend, because like, as we know, Mike, Baba hasn't been doing too bad as a company.
True. So I think it's a little bit of both. And then Jerry also said it could be like the COVID fears. I know it's been crazy over there in China with their lockdowns and all that stuff. So I'm sure that definitely hurts a little bit.
Yeah, really good point. I kind of forgot about the COVID going crazy over there, but you're right. It's been nuts over there. I've heard they've been doing lockdowns and stuff like that in like Shanghai and different areas like that. So definitely crazy. And I know even like Hong Kong had some crazy stuff, but yeah. And I know that even the vaccine stocks have been going kind of crazy lately. I know Pfizer's been falling off this week, but like if we look at Pfizer on the daily chart, they were kind of ripping up there for a couple weeks. And I know yesterday Moderna had a pretty nice green day, or I should say, like to end the week last week, Moderna was green.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been watching Moderna for a little bit, but then, like you said, it just kind of fell off the board. So that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Oh, that's I was reading CNBC today, and with Johnson and Johnson, I was skimming over some of their earnings, and I know that like their vaccine sales growth is expected to slow a lot. As apparently there's just like a giant surplus in the world right now.
Yeah, that actually makes that makes a lot of sense actually, Mike. Like if you want to be honest, like that because these companies have just been pumping out like tons and tons of vaccines. So it makes sense that there would eventually be a bit of like I don't know what you would call like a surplus, but either way, it's definitely not good for the companies. And man, it sucks to see J&J fall this morning because I was kind of hoping Johnson and Johnson would start to go back up, but yeah, they're definitely, well, I should say, Mike, they actually recovered quite a bit actually since market open. I remember like whenever the earnings first came out, they dipped down, and whenever the market first opened today, they were just flat. But man, they ended up actually roaring back, even though they reported that bad guidance. So I guess that's good for Johnson and Johnson. At least they're making money in the short term.
Yep. Alrighty. And then Jerry said it should be good for Zoom. I hope. Zoom's been getting beaten down significantly over the past like year and a half, Tom. It's been really, really bad. So I really do hope it helps Zoom. Honestly, I'm a little bit skeptical considering that the lockdowns have been going on for some time now and Zoom really hasn't moved. So normally like we see like the move happen as the event happens or even in anticipation of the event, but I really do hope Zoom pops up. I wouldn't be surprised if it pops up either way, just considering the level it's at and just how growth stocks have potential to pop back up with this upcoming earnings season. For example, with the last earnings season, basically every stock, whether or not they reported good earnings, fell for the most part. I mean, of course, there were some outliers, but for the most part, a bunch of stocks fell in the previous earnings season. So if we can set the tone in a good way, that can be really good, not only for the stocks that are reporting earnings, but other stocks that are just at low levels.
Yeah, you're right, because a lot of these stocks are so low right now that I feel like that not too much more, like, for example, like they're so low that I feel like whenever stocks are running up at highs, like, for example, like whenever Zoom was at like $400, obviously it takes a lot of good news to make this stock continue to the upside. Like investors, when stocks are that high, they need some good some good earnings to come out, some good optimistic movement, maybe a big event with the company, and that'll help make that stock rise. But whenever stocks are this low, I feel like you don't need quite as good of news. So for example, as long as Zoom maybe reports that stuff is turning around or that maybe they're getting an increase in monthly active users or something, then I think that could make Zoom possibly have a pretty big move, Mike. And as we know, like these stocks have been falling off a lot. And whenever they start to rise, these growth stocks have been having like 4 to 5% up days. So that makes me feel like that Zoom could have some pretty big moves back to the upside. Like we might start seeing some big like 10% up days or, stuff like that whenever these sectors do finally start moving, which I think will be pretty soon, Mike. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later, especially in Zoom's case, like they said, with all this China stuff going on. But it's still though, like with the growth sector overall, like even if we look at something like Palantir, it's just so beaten down that whenever we have these big green days lately, they've been running for like 4 to 5%, which makes for some great movement.
Yep, true that. I mean, it's not looking bad today. Like, a lot of stocks are looking pretty good, especially in the airline industry, but I will say that, like, DraftKings, Disney, Zoom, like, they're moving very well intraday, and it's looking pretty good.
It is actually, yeah. They're coming all right back to the upside. DraftKings is actually breaking above a bit of an intraday resistance from yesterday, right around 16.25. So who knows? Maybe we'll start to see some nice breakouts here because they've been moving well and consolidating. So maybe we'll see those nice like pops that everyone's been waiting for. I know, Mike, we've been waiting for these pops out of these growth stocks for a long, long time. So maybe we'll finally see them come through here today. Who knows? Maybe DraftKings can come up and maybe retest like $16.50. I think that seems like a pretty safe level, and that's right around the opening price of yesterday. So I don't think that would be too unrealistic to come hit. But Yeah, you're right. These growth plays are doing great. DraftKings is up. We even have like Matterport and some of these metaverse plays doing well.
Awesome. Did you see the QQQ? That's going crazy, as Jerry said.
No, I didn't, but I'm not surprised. With everything in the green today, I'm glad to see it up. And man, the QQQ was like a heartbeat monitor yesterday, Mike, along with the SPY. Like, look at this. It was like an M throughout the day. Like, we had the low of day around 336, ran up and touched highs of 340, and then came right back down a couple times. So definitely a lot of movement here. And I hope we have a nice breakout today, Mike. Like, if we could break above like 341.50 or up above like 342, I think the QQQ might have a pretty big intraday move here. But, we need these big tech stocks to keep going up. I know that like Tesla looks pretty good today. It's kind of back in the green here. We have Apple moving up. It's trying to come back in the green here. I know it's not green, but it's trying. Microsoft was holding up, and they're actually in the green. So, yeah, the big tech stocks are doing quite well along with growth. So far today, Mike, the market's doing pretty well, minus some of these China plays and a few select growth plays.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love to see it. Let's go. Over the past 2 trading days, it's been really rough. On Thursday and then yesterday, Monday, lots of selling pressure came in, but I'll definitely take this upwards movement. DraftKings is, as you know, Tom, probably going to be my favorite setup today, but still, there's a lot of other stocks that are outperforming DraftKings by a significant margin.
Yeah, there is. And I'll tell you, like, the top of my watch list here looks pretty good. So we have Plug Power up here. They're up 5.6%. They had that big drop in market open, but they're roaring right back to life now. I wonder how high these guys are going to get. Below this, I actually have good old SPCE, Mike. It's been a while since we've talked about these guys, but they are ripping up today at open. I don't know if some news came out with this one or what, but they are definitely up a lot, up 5% again. I know RKLB was doing pretty good. ASTR is coming back in the green. So we even have these space plays doing well, Mike. And, even some of these, like, I don't want to call them safer stocks, but some of these, like, more established car companies like General Motors. I mean, look at that breakout today. That's pretty big there with them. And then Ford is also breaking out. So some of these car companies are coming to life too.
Awesome. All right. SPCE's not looking too bad either. Like, that one's really running on my watch list. It's actually leading the way, and it actually has some really good volume flowing into it. I don't know if you saw that or not, but today was insane for volume, and we were only 30 minutes into open.
Yeah, we are actually. This was one of the ones I talked about there, having that big momentum, and it's running up towards that $9 resistance level. And man, they really broke out above that level they consolidated at yesterday, like right around $8.60. Like, they just blasted through that this morning. So they're definitely having some good news. And I looked on Thinkorswim, Mike, and here I'll bring up the news tab over here really quickly, but apparently Jefferies reiterates a buy rating on them and initiated a $20 price target. So, man, a $20 price target sounds pretty good. That's 100% gain from where we are, around $9 a share. So I hope SPCE hits $20, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did eventually, but man, we're going to need to see this one to hit 20 again.
You know it. All right. Netflix isn't looking too bad either. I feel like we should definitely take a look at Netflix, considering that they report earnings after the bell. They're up around 1%, which, of course, it isn't a ton, but still, it's a big day for Netflix. I really hope it pops up, mainly to set the tone for the earnings season, because if we see another giant gap down, like we did last time with Netflix, like, I just feel like it's not good, not only for Netflix, but just other stocks.
Yeah, it's going to be bad for stocks like Disney as well. And, any stock that's really dealing with streaming. I know even Amazon does stuff like that now, and Hulu and all these different companies. So definitely going to be big for the streaming sector if Netflix does bad. But you're right. I personally, Mike, really hope that they do well. And I'll be pretty optimistic with this one, Mike. Like, they're right around this support down here around 330. More people. Like we've been saying, China has been seeing an increase in COVID cases and stuff. I wonder if that's going to help Netflix. It could. There's a lot of people over there in China, and who knows if they've been locked up. Maybe they've been buying up more subscriptions and stuff. But either way, I mean, Netflix has been destroyed. They had highs of 700. They're all the way down to lows now of 330, and they're kind of bouncing. So personally, Mike, I'm going to be pretty optimistic. I hope they come in with good earnings, and I'm not going to, buy calls or anything like that ahead of the earnings because it's so risky, of course, especially on such a high price stock like Netflix. But in the end, though, I will say I'm going to be pretty optimistic, and I'm really hoping for some nice numbers tonight, especially, like I said, with those monthly subscribers.
Yeah, so I don't think Netflix is actually in China. I don't think they have. I don't think they ever launched there. But I definitely know what you mean in terms of hopefully an increase in subscribers through everywhere else.
Where is it? Squid Game? Is that in Japan or something then?
It might be Korea. Let me see. Squid Game created. Let's see. It says, yeah, it looks like Korea. Let me just double check though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I honestly I thought that show was like a Chinese show, so that's where I went wrong there.
Yeah, it says South Korean. So yeah, I mean, hopefully the earnings report goes well, but we'll see what happens. I think we already talked about this, but like Disney's doing decent today, and like you said, like if Netflix sees a really big increase in the subscriber numbers, that can be good for Disney because they, of course, own ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, and even Hulu.
Yeah, and that's going to be huge for them because, I know that Disney has been, like, I remember, Mike, on like their past couple earnings reports, those, like the monthly subscriber numbers and stuff, they just weren't like wowing, and I feel like that maybe as like they start to come out with more shows here, I know that they're coming out with the new Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and they have that Boba Fett series that came out, and I know there's even more movies in the works for this year, so maybe Disney will get a pop on stuff like that, along with Netflix. But yeah, Netflix is going to be huge tonight. Last time Netflix went down, Disney kind of followed them down, at least for the first couple days, so I hope that Disney fares well. Even if Netflix goes down, personally, Mike, I hope Disney does better. Like, out of both of them, I would rather have Disney personally, but I think both are going to be pretty good companies for the longer term. But I hate it because they're so, like, for example, they move in sympathy with each other with these earnings, and I'd hate to see Netflix take another 10% tumble and then Disney follow along with another 5% drop tomorrow. Like, man, I'm tired of them continuing to just tumble down. So hopefully we see some nice earnings. I think we might. The Netflix, it's been a while since they've had a nice pop back to the upside. So I feel like we don't need anything too wowing to maybe help the sentiment get back in the green here.
Yeah, and then Iranical said Netflix suspended its service in Russia and halted all productions there. I think will impact subscription number. While that may be true, I would hope that the analysts would have priced that into their estimates. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the Russia situation has been going on for some time now, and that gave the analysts more than enough time to, do their due diligence to see how that will impact Netflix's subscriber count and their earnings. And I would imagine that would be priced in.
Yeah, and we have seen some companies kind of surprise me, Mike, like whenever they reported like a slowdown due to Russia. Like, I would have never expected some of these companies could actually get affected by Russia, but I guess they can. I mean, obviously Netflix, if they lose subscribers, that's never a good thing to see. I know companies like McDonald's and like Burger King and stuff were shutting down restaurants over there even, and I know they said that might affect them, but I will say that a lot of these companies also said that it won't affect them in a huge way. So I'm curious to see, but that's definitely a good point to keep in mind because, as we know, Russia has been banning things, and other companies have also been pulling their products from Russia. So I'm definitely curious to see how that'll affect it, Mike. And if that affects Netflix, who knows? Then that might affect Disney. That might affect other companies too. So we'll have to see.
All right, there we go. On the high ticker, we have Uber, Square, and Plug running up. Of course, with all the airlines, but I figured I'd mention these ones because we didn't cover them yet today. Uber's not looking too bad. Square's not looking too bad. Let's see, Plug. We haven't looked at Plug in a little bit, Tom. Let's see. Wow, 6%.
Yeah, they were flying this morning. They dipped, and they're flying right back up now today. They have this nice little boost up over the last like 5 minutes or so, but it looks like, Mike, they're really consolidating a lot intraday here, like right around this 27.20 level. Looks like they might start falling back down for like a few minutes, but I'll definitely keep my eyes on them. Like if they start running back, if they start breaking back above 27.20, who knows? Plug might be a pretty good like intraday setup here. They definitely had that nice move this morning, and I know a lot of these. I don't want to call them an EV company, Mike, but a lot of these like charging/solar companies, they're doing pretty good today.
Yep. You know it. How is Enphase doing?
They were doing great. I know that. Well, it looks like at market open they tanked down, but that they came right back up. They're just about back in the green. I will say though they've had a lot of momentum to the upside ever since that initial drop. Earlier this morning, I remember I was really eyeing up Enphase like in pre-market, and it was doing quite well. If we look at Enphase on the daily, I will say, Mike, like we're seeing a lot of plays like, for example, like if we go look at something like Plug. They looks pretty similar to Enphase on the chart. They're both like holding up, and they've been going up for like the past couple months. But if we look at something like Zoom, for example, they're like all the way down around lows. So I feel like some of these charging companies like Enphase, Plug, and other companies like that, maybe FSLR, they've been holding up a lot better compared to the other growth plays. But I will say so far today, Enphase isn't doing too much, but Plug Power is definitely running, and I know RUN is trying to come back in the green too.
All right, there we go. Let's see. I'm trying to see what else we have moving, Tom. Do you see anything that we may have missed?
One thing I am noticing is Asana, Mike. It looks like ASAN is in the green. They're up 2.6%. I know this one's been huge lately with Moskovitz putting, what is it, Mike? $1 billion or over $1 billion now?
Yeah, over $1 billion now.
Yeah, over $1 billion into Asana lately, and the stock's been continuing to fall off, which obviously these insiders can never pick the exact bottom, but still, I mean, it's starting to pop back up today. It's up 2.8%. It looks like on the daily chart, it's like consolidating right around that support at like $30. So who knows? This one might be a pretty good buy soon.
Yeah, I am looking at some of the recent insider activity, and it looks like his last purchase was on February 25th. So I wonder if he's all maxed out or if he plans to buy more. But either way, like he has been buying so many shares of this company, and like we say all the time, insiders can sell their stock for an unlimited number of reasons. They buy the stock for one reason and one reason only, and that's because they think the stock will go up. So when you have the CEO of the company, also a pretty smart billionaire who co-founded Facebook, trucking over $1 billion worth of his own money into the stock, like it definitely makes you consider an investment. So I do own some Asana, and of course it's been pretty rough lately, but I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, Mike, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I'm with you. Personally, I think it's a great time to buy Asana, but like, what would you say to all the people that say, well, how can Asana keep going down after he buys $1 billion worth of it? Like everyone is like, I'm sure there's a lot of retail traders out there that saw that purchase that were like, man, I'm going to get some calls that expire in a month. And then, of course, over the next month, Asana just stays stagnant and then slowly starts going down. And, I know Moskovitz is in for the long term. And guys, just understand that whenever these CEOs buy, they're in for the long haul. They're not in for, like a month or two. And it's just crazy to see how, some people really start to freak out. Like whenever like an insider buys and the stock goes against them, like, a lot of times these insiders are holding for years on end. And especially in Moskovitz's case, Mike, like with him being so big into Asana now, I mean, you would think he'd definitely try to help the company grow.
For sure. And I'm really glad you asked this question. Right now, Asana's market cap is like $6.5 billion. He's been buying in over like months. So let's say we go back to when the share price was like $65 or something like that. That's like a $12 to $13 billion market cap. And if he put in $1 billion, like, while it's a ton of money and while that market cap is relatively low, that's still only like a 10% boost to the stock. You know what I mean? So while him buying definitely adds direct buying pressure, it's just clearly not enough. Like the sellers are just like overwhelming his buying pressure. And another thing that I want to emphasize, just like you already said, Tom, is, when you have to understand how to play each setup. For example, if we're looking at Asana and how the CEO is putting $1 billion into the shares, you would play that completely differently than if you heard like breaking news on how a biotech penny stock just got denied for their FDA approval. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're completely different setups, and I think that it's very important to be aware of how to play each setup, whether it's a very short-term scalp, maybe a little bit longer type of day trade, maybe a swing trade, or just like a very long-term hold. And I feel like this setup is definitely one of those stocks that, whether you believe in the setup or not, if you decide to play it, it's important to play it in the right way, and that would be one, either getting shares or getting options that are really deep in the money with a ton of time. Because what is really unfortunate is, like, let's say Asana keeps going down for like the next week or two, but then let's say Moskovitz is, he continues to buy up shares, and then over the next year or two, the stock price doubles or triples. It's like, the exact setup can happen. Like, for example, Moskovitz buying shares and the stock price going up. But if you play it in the wrong way, you can kind of lose, even though the setup should have worked if you would have played it the right way.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point there. And that's like exactly what I was trying to say, because, a lot of these traders, especially retail traders and, people who love to day trade, they'll see these insiders and then they'll say, well, hey, I might be able to get a big shorter term move out of this. But, just keep in mind that it doesn't always happen right away. And like Mike said, even $1 billion, it's not even enough to really, I can move the stock, especially short term, but it's not going to be anything like groundbreaking. It's nothing like Elon buying up like let's just give a hypothetical. It's not like anyone buying like half of Twitter or anything like that. So it's definitely a big number, $1 billion. But man, I hate to say it, Mike, but in the world of the stock market, $1 billion, it's a lot, but it's not that much.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. Whenever you're looking at Apple, which is $3 trillion almost, you're sitting there like, wow, like this is just $1 billion is just, it's a lot, obviously, especially on an individual standpoint, but from a company standpoint, I guess it's just it's not groundbreaking.
Yeah, it's really not. Like, there's a lot of companies out there with billion-dollar market caps that are kind of small companies. So what I'm going to do, actually, is I want to go to FinViz really quickly, and I just want to see...
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, I just want to see some of these, like, where is it? Alright, we'll do this. I'm just looking at some of these companies that have, like, billion-dollar market caps to see if I can even, like, recognize some of them. You know what I mean? So let's go to this. Give me 1 second. We'll go 40. Alright, so I'm currently on FinViz, and I'm looking at, like, these billion-dollar companies, like, let's see, General American Investors Company, IMAX, I know that. Like, I'm looking through the list, and I don't even know half of them, to be honest. Like, I just have a scanner pulled up. Hold on. Yeah, like, I don't even recognize half of these companies, Tom. Like, it just goes to show you that, like, $1 billion isn't what you think it might be.
Yeah, like, I'm sitting here looking, and I just did the same type of little scan. I did anything over 300 million on the market cap, and, I'm scrolling down, and the first thing I see, of course, is Ameren. Of course, we know Ameren. They're a pretty big electrical company and stuff. But as I go down, I see another one like Advanced Energy Industries. Never heard of them, but they're worth $2.9 billion. American Equity Investment Life Holding Company, insurance company. It looks like $3.7 billion. I can just go to page 100, randomly pick the first company I find, like Inven Trust Properties Corp. It's like a REIT worth $2 billion. So there's a lot of companies out there, Mike, and you're right. Like, whenever you start like looking at all the companies that are over $1 billion, it's pretty insane to see all of the companies that are worth that much as far as market cap goes. But man, I mean, you're right. A lot of these I haven't even heard of, and who knows how much private companies are worth $1 billion too. I mean, I'm not sure how much there really are, but I'm sure there's quite a few.
Yep, true that. All right. So I just want to get back to some of these questions on the stream. Jerry said, I just can't get over SPY and QQQ. Yeah, it's always surprising everyone. It's definitely moving in a good way, and I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, this is pretty big. I mean, QQQ is breaking that high of yesterday, and it's starting to really run up. So glad to see this. Hopefully the tech sector keeps going up. Like we said earlier, Mike, Apple and Microsoft were doing very well, and it looks like they've continued with that nice movement. Microsoft, too, even they're up in the green. So glad to see both of these stocks moving up in a big way. And, I know even Tesla was doing pretty good earlier. And look at them. They're actually ripping up above 1,020 right now. They might be approaching a bit of a resistance around 1030 now that they broke above 1020. But definitely, though, these tech stocks are having great moves, Mike. And so far today, my watch list is mostly green. I will say it's been a while since my watch list has been this green. I do have some stocks in the red, of course, and unfortunately, Twitter actually started falling off, and they're back in the red with all the volatility going on. And we have gold in the red now, and some of the oil plays like Oxy are still in the red. But I will say, I mean, so far today, a lot of growth plays have been coming back to the upside, which is nice. And even a lot of these, like we mentioned earlier, like airlines and value plays are doing well.
There we go. All right, and then we have Caleb saying, I don't know if you covered already, but Boeing and Apple. Yeah, we talked about both of them a little bit, but we'll definitely cover them again because they are moving in some pretty good ways. Tom, a lot of money is flowing into the airline industry, just that group of stocks. Boeing is looking pretty good, and it has good volume too, so I like it.
Yeah, I like it. It recently made some higher lows here. We consolidated a lot at that 175 support. We failed to really break below that. We've been holding up very, very well. So yeah, great movement out of Boeing, especially today. We're up 3% alone this morning, and it ran all the way up to that nice resistance around 185 to 186. So, I'm not really going to expect Boeing, Mike, to continue to fly up today, though. It's already up 3%. It could always continue up a little bit more, but I'm not going to expect them to get like a 7% up day or anything crazy like that. It always can happen. Boeing's been pretty volatile lately, to say the least, but I don't see him, continuing to fly up intraday. But so far, it's had great movement, and I'm definitely throwing it on the radar because if we see more good movement like tomorrow morning or something like that, I think Boeing could be a really good play to look at. And, I know he mentioned Apple too, and Apple's also ripping up, kind of like how we just talked about. The tech sector is doing great, whether it's Tesla, Apple, Microsoft. I mean, the big three are doing great. I did notice that some of the chip stocks were not the best today. Like Nvidia, at least at market open, it was falling down, but at least it's back in the green now.
All right, there we go. And what's also interesting with Apple is while it is booming and while it is up a lot of other stocks are outperforming it. For example, Apple's up 0.8%, but Redfin's up 4%. Penn is up 3.8%. Square is up 4%. Palantir's up 3.5%. Boeing's up 3%. Zoom's up 3%. So it goes to show you that it appears that, relatively speaking, just other industries have more, I guess you could say more buyers flowing into them today.
Yeah, I would say that as well. And, obviously Apple's a super established stock, and it's probably a lot harder to make this one move than it is a lot of these growth plays, but I definitely see what you mean today. I mean, if we look at some of these growth plays like Palantir, they're starting to really break above a lot of these high levels from yesterday. And Palantir, for example, is all the way up to 1260 now, Mike, and it's starting to really run. Look at the way this thing's breaking out. It just, as I'm talking, it's continuing to move higher also. So you're right. The momentum is definitely in some of these other stocks more than those tech stocks. I will say, though, those tech stocks are moving pretty well. They're not flying up like we're seeing with some of these growth plays. But yeah, I mean, Palantir's doing great today. Even good old Teladoc, Mike, is starting to break up intraday. DraftKings is climbing the watch list. So who knows, Mike? Maybe we'll get to end the day happy today rather than sad that DraftKings is in the red again.
Yep. Hopefully, right? All right. Iranical said Neo comes back. Let's see. Neo. Yeah, it's not looking too bad, especially on a day where all the China stocks are struggling. So, good stuff there. Jerry said you were definitely right about those Palantir puts. Zoom going insane. For sure, for sure. I mean, I love to see it. Lots of great movement today, Tom, and I hope it continues for a long time.
Me too. We've been waiting for it. We need it, and man, it's been a bad downtrend. Like, let's be honest. Like, look at the max daily chart on these stocks, like Palantir, Zoom, DraftKings. What's another one? Like this Teladoc. Like even Enphase. Of course, Enphase has came back a little bit, but still, I mean, it just sucks to see that on the chart. Lucid, Rivian. I mean, man, like these daily charts are getting brutal. But I will say, like, the comeback is looking pretty nice. Like, I've been loving the way a lot of these stocks are coming back. Like Plug, for example, starting to come back in a big way. Matterport's running back. Square is starting to look pretty good here on the daily. Like, they're holding their ground actually very well compared to a lot of stocks. And Mike, we can't forget about some of these FANG stocks either. You know, like Facebook, for example. They're actually having a pretty good day today. And, you know, I'm someone who doesn't particularly love Facebook, but hey, when their stock's moving, it usually does pretty good. And so far today, they are ripping up in a major way. They're holding that 210 support pretty well. And I wonder if this will, like, you know, like at some point, we're not going to see Facebook at these low levels anymore. And I wonder if this is like one of the last times we'll see it around 200.
I hope. I really do. All right, Tom. Well, do you have any last-minute plays before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about earlier, some of these space stocks are doing pretty well. SPCE is surprising me today. You know, it's up 3.4%, having a pretty good day here. Another one that we didn't talk about today so far is Chewy, but they're just kind of going up with all the other growth stocks. I will say, Mike, I'm happy that these growth stocks are still moving in sympathy with each other. You know, obviously, like if they all start ripping back up, I hope that some of the ones, like some of the companies that might not be as well off as other companies, like for example, like Zoom's doing very well, while a company like DraftKings hasn't been posting the best numbers. But I will say, like, if Zoom starts going up and a lot of sectors start rising, it might start making these other plays just go up in sympathy. And I think so far today we're seeing that happen. So I'm glad that we're seeing this type of great movement. DraftKings is moving up great, and man, even Tesla's up. So far today's been a great trading day, and we've had a lot of great momentum plays, lots of good setups. So man, hopefully this continues.
Sounds good. So thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. Before we close out, I just want to personally thank all of you for joining. So shout out to Alex, George, Iranical, Vicky, Hunter, Raymond, Jerry, and Caleb, and I think that's everyone. So thank you guys so much for joining. Hopefully this market keeps booming up, and let's have a great rest of the week.